there's a lot to say about her, but she'll be the one talking most. Dr. Clark is an NTID professor at RIT and also an audiology consultant with Visions Global Empowerment in Ethiopia. Last June, she was our presenter and was so terrific, we had to have her back. She has been at NTID for 29 years. She is a professor, audiologist, and coordinator of the cochlear implant program. She performs many duties in audiology besides teaching undergraduates. Dr. Clark has a BS, master's degree, and a doctorate, and she worked at the House Institute Cochlear Implant Program in Los Angeles before she came to RIT. She began helping hard of hearing and deaf individuals in Ethiopia in 2014, since there were 5 million people needing help due to lack of support services. Her efforts in setting up audiological and intervention centers fostered a commendable impact. She has earned many awards for her outstanding accomplishments. We welcome Catherine and know she is a blessing to not only the people in Rochester, but in Ethiopia. She'll probably have questions at the end, but make sure everybody gets to ask a question.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the invitation to meet with HLAA again. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. I'm really grateful for all the tech support, including Chaz, my former NTID colleague. I also want to say it's wonderful to see familiar faces. Here's Sue Miller, who's been my friend for several years. Joe, we work together as audiologists. And I see some new faces as well. I'm just thrilled to be here. Again, thank you for welcoming me back. I'm looking forward to providing you an update on the work I've been doing in Ethiopia. I'm also grateful for your role in helping to shape the lives of deaf and hard of hearing people. Next. Yeah, thank you. One thing I forgot to mention as part of the introduction is I want to thank Brian, thank you, for matching me up with my little sister. We met when she was 12 years old. She's now 40. So that dates both of us. But Brian helped me support a young woman through her college education, and she's doing beautifully. So I'm really grateful for the former Big Brother, Big Sister Deaf and Hard of Hearing program. So thanks again, Brian. Okay. I'm good at talking, so I'll keep on talking here. All right. So what I'm going to do today is share a little bit more of what I do at RIT. That work has led into what I'm doing in Ethiopia. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about who I partnered with, Visions Global Empowerment, and their role in my work. Our goal is to create more access to audiology services And ultimately, we'd like to have sustainable programs. So I'm not going back and forth. Throughout the presentation, I will share comments from the people I've been working with, the people I've trained, as well as the clients we've seen. And lastly, I'm going to invite you to come along for a future trip. The volunteers have a range of talents. I know there's a lot of talent in this room right here. So you're always welcome to join me. I'll talk more about that later. I'm an audiologist, right? And I'm having trouble with the tech support as well. So I apologize. There we go. Thank you. Am I hitting the right button? Okay. I love my job. Okay. As Brian mentioned it, I've been doing it for almost 30 years. I love it because of the people I work with. I'm working with students. I'm working with my colleagues, faculty and staff at RIT, at NTID. I'm working with alumni. And I'm also working with members from the Osher Life Learning Institute group. So I have clients with a variety of backgrounds, which I really, really value. And one thing I've been doing at NTID, along with the hearing test, is working with clients who are using hearing aids. And we tend to work with the 4 companies on the slide. Now, what's interesting about that, I've mostly worked with Resound and Oticon. You may be familiar with those names. Can I see some nods? Okay, great. Those 2 companies have been very generous in donating hearing aids towards the work in Ethiopia. So I wanted to give them a plug out there. Okay? As Brian mentioned, I'm also a cochlear implant specialist. So I'm involved with cochlear implant candidacy evaluations, as well as the post-implant fitting. And I work with all 3 manufacturers, Cochlear Americas, Advanced Bionics, and Med-L. It's interesting, the last one is doing cochlear implant surgeries in Ethiopia. So I've had some clients come in while I'm visiting for follow-up services. So it's nice to kind of have that connection. What I also do with hearing aid users, whether it's a hearing aid user who started off with an analog hearing aid and then they upgraded to a digital hearing aid, and the sound is so different, the brain is having a hard time getting used to that new sound, or if somebody who's just gotten their cochlear implant and want to optimize how they hear. So I do provide some one-on-one communication instruction. That may involve listening, speech reading, or both. And we also talk about different accessories of listening devices that they could use. So it may be a little bit similar to what Betsy's students are doing in Nazareth, but it tends to be on a one-on-one instead of a group situation. But the goals, I think, are similar. I'm also doing some research on vibrating bracelets. Now, the bracelet itself has some mini vibrators. So the microphone picks up the sound and changes it to a tactile sensation. We are trying to find out if tactile feedback, along with a hearing aid or implantable technology, will that reduce listening effort and improve speech understanding? So that's a research project I'm involved in right now. My other scholarly activity is the work in Ethiopia. What impact can we have on a largely underserved population. Now, I'm a longstanding member of HLAA, which I'm grateful for. Thank you. And I encourage my clients also to join HLAA. The newsletters I post in our department bulletin board for them to access. It's a great resource. I also show the website. When somebody was talking about places of worship that are looped, the organization is my guide for my main resource for where loops are set up. I'm greatly appreciative of that. I went to the demo center last year, and it was the first place I saw an Auracast broadcast receiver. And boy, was I impressed. I'm like, wow, go HLAA. You guys were ahead of the curve on that. And Joe and I were just talking about the Hope meetings. He's invited me to one, so I'm hoping to come back in June to attend a Hope meeting. And I also refer people to the cochlear implant group that Peter's involved with. All of these resources are invaluable. So I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you on behalf of myself and the people that I work with. I'm kind of trying to read off that picture there. It's proving the next generation of young leaders in India, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, and Nicaragua through education and community development. So that's the basis of the nonprofit visions that I volunteer for. In my role in Ethiopia is to help leadership develop through the provision of audiology services. So these people are getting employment, careers, and they're feeling like they're leading in this role. Visions has also set up a school for hard of hearing and deaf children, the only school in the town. I have volunteered in northern Ethiopia in the past, and now I'm in southern Ethiopia. My first trip was 2014 with a Nazareth student, speech language pathology students. As you see, my 9th trip is coming up. On the right, there's a client, a new hearing aid user, and the caption says, hearing aid appreciation. So one of the reasons I go back is because not only is the temperature warm, but the people are warm as well. And they're ecstatic to have somebody come and try to help them with their hearing. This is a picture of last year's volunteers. There was about 16 of us, one of the biggest groups. And the group was composed of teachers, interpreters, speech language pathologists, audiologists. So it was a pretty diverse group. And everybody came there just to volunteer their time and their knowledge to the community on site. In the background is a lake. So we're actually at close to a student's home. So we thought it was a great place to take a picture. If you can see, I think the landscape is beautiful. On this side, you will see a map. In the yellow, it says capital city. Underneath there is an arrow that says Addis Ababa, ADDIS-ABBA. That is the capital of Ethiopia. I volunteer in southern Ethiopia in the city Hawassa, Hawassa. As Brian mentioned, there are 5.5 million people are hard of hearing or deaf. So it's a huge population. But look at the low number of providers available to serve that many people. That's been the challenge we've been trying to overcome. So it'd be like one ENT for maybe 100,000 people, which is really not manageable. So the need is immense. Now, the audiology technicians, that also includes hearing aid specialists. Altogether, that's 70. Yesterday, I learned there's one more audiologist. So now we have two, but still not enough. Not enough. I have been lucky that two of the ear, nose, and throat doctors live in the area where I volunteer. So we have partnered. So what they do is they also do audiology testing. So that's what happens. The doctors tend to come to the US or Europe and get trained. They get trained on ear surgeries, but they also get trained on how to do hearing tests because there's no audiologist there and there's few audiology techs. So the doctors have all that responsibility. So they try to provide comprehensive services, which has been a challenge. So you can only imagine how many clients they have waiting for services. And that's a gap that we're trying to fill. So what these doctors are doing is they'll do the diagnostic part, they may do a hearing test, then they'll refer to the Clark Center for a hearing aid fitting. And if we're seeing somebody who's got an ear infection, we're referring them back to the doctor. So together, we're trying to come up with an infrastructure to provide ENT and audiology services. And what I found, it's important to really have that local connection. You know, a lot of nonprofits, NGOs, we will go in, do work, and then we leave. And once we leave, who's there to continue the service? And that's something that we're trying to change. Because the numbers are so great, there is low awareness of ENT and audiology services. So people rarely seek treatment. So when we have people waiting, we're actually thrilled because these are people who are trying to make a change. Now they know that somebody can assess their hearing. Now, please know this may be their first hearing test in their whole life. So we're giving them this headphone, putting them into this dark room, and then we're asking them to push a button or raise their hand when they hear the tone. Imagine how abstract that would be for somebody who's never had a hearing test before. So a lot of the work is education, talking about what is the purpose of this. And if you do have a hearing loss, what are some recommendations? What are some options for you? So awareness is key through this whole process. Now, the people are waiting. Sometimes they're excited. They may be nervous, but they've traveled hundreds of miles to be seen. So what we'll do, we may start at 9 in the morning and we may go until it's dark, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Because it's difficult for these people to travel from here to there to get the service. So the center was started 2 years ago, and it was a surprise to me. I went back in 2024, and they greeted me with this center in my name. So I'm just humbled by this. And I was teasing the people. I said, a lot of people receive this honor after they've passed, right? So I've got it while I'm still here, which means I've got to work. So it's an interesting kind of commitment that I'll have for several years to come. But again, I'm honored to have it. I'm honored to have it. So today I'll provide you an update what we've done in the last 2 years. Below is a comment from the staff that are working there. And what's interesting is they talk about they're learning about customer service. Okay, something they hadn't really thought about before. It's also interesting the staff have multiple roles. They're not audiology techs full time. One of them is a program manager, another one is a principal, another one's a teacher. So they're adding on audiology services. So they're kind of multitasking. But it's really wonderful because they have this built-in community of deaf or hard of hearing people that they're serving in multiple ways. So knowing your client on a daily basis have been real helpful to the impact we're having with the delivery of the services. This picture here shows that we're seeing adults as well as children. So the goal has been to increase the number of people that receive services. And we've seen almost 300 people in 2 years. So the goal is moving along, which is great. On the right, it shows you the different hearing levels of the people that have come for services. If you may notice, the majority of people have significant hearing loss in that profound category. Now, what are the causes of the variety of hearing loss? Some people we've seen have had untreated ear infections. They've just been chronic. They've gotten worse and worse over time. Africa, or at least Ethiopia, is part of the meningitis belt. So we have some people that contracted meningitis and then they were deaf. So it was acquired type of hearing loss. Yeah. We've also had people who have noise-induced hearing loss. People in Ethiopia, some of the workers do woodwork. So they have woodworking shops, and they're not using any type of ear protection. So over time, their hearing is getting worse and worse the longer they work, as well as in metal shops. We have age-related hearing loss, head traumas, and tuberculosis is something that's still common there. So sometimes to treat tuberculosis, you have ototoxic drugs, drugs that damage your hearing, just to treat the disease. Now, the ages we see, clients range from age 2 to age 85. So it's a pretty wide spread. We mostly see adults. One thing I also meant to mention on the previous slide, that we have done some case histories and find out some families have a history of deafness. So there's a genetic factor as well. Now, part of the work involves me going there for site visits. And while I'm there, I'm doing some supervision work. And so on the right, I'm supervising a hearing aid fitting for a child. On the left, a volunteer, Dr. Kalan, is supervising on hearing testing information. So it's been great for us to first train and then watch and then provide feedback. And all this is to help with the sustainability. So the picture at the top is of a son who brought his mother in for a hearing test and to get hearing aids. And you can see her smiling up there. So what we're finding out, some people are really monitoring their voice for the first time. They're like, oh, I can hear myself. Or in the environment, they're hearing all the environmental sounds, like what's this, what's that. So they're really curious about what's happening now. And so the journey of hearing is really beginning at this point in their life. And it's wonderful to be there to witness that happening. And their children are just ecstatic as well. Now, most of the hearing aids that we've been fitting are for people who have severe and moderate hearing losses. I mention that because we have a limited stock of hearing aids. And each person, unfortunately, can get one hearing aid. So we have to decide which ear. And we know that's not the best scenario. But for some, it's an okay start. Because sometimes I think if they had 2 hearing aids, it would be too much for somebody who's never heard or have heard a little bit for most of their life. So eventually, we're hoping to introduce a second hearing aid as we have a larger inventory of hearing aids. Among new hearing aid users, as you see here, we have a picture of an adult child bringing in their parent. We also have children receiving hearing aids, students at the school, teachers, businessmen, farmers, and nomads. And all the hearing aids, they're free. So you don't have to have a certain amount of money in order to get the service or to get a hearing aid. We've also had some people with significant hearing loss who were just curious and wanted to try it. This is my one opportunity to try something. So like, okay. So we set it up, we have them try it. And sometimes that trial is, it's right off. It's too noisy because it's been quiet for so many years. So they struggle with that. We have some people who are using it immediately to help with face-to-face communication when they're lip reading and listening at the same time. Some of them are much more aware of their environment, where we have others where the volume is never soft enough. So we find sometimes we have to make some gradual changes to how the hearing aids are set, and follow-up becomes important. One thing that kind of the history of hearing aid work in Ethiopia was that audiologists like myself or from Europe would come in, get the hearing aids, that one fitting, and then leave. Imagine having only one appointment with your audiologist or your hearing aid dispenser, and that was it. So the follow-up has been imperative because we know as we listen to things over time, our awareness changes. We may want more volume, or if it's too loud initially, we may want less volume. The whole point is that hearing aids need to be adjusted, and that's a normal part of the process. So we're having them come back for follow-up to make those time of adjustment to see how people are doing. We don't want that hearing aid off and in a drawer somewhere. We've got a limited stock, so we want to see if we can help you to use this. If you can't use it now, maybe you try it again later. So a lot of counseling is involved. One of the goals that we're trying to do is to build some self-advocacy for the new hearing aid users like HLA promotes. And so telling their families that they have a hearing aid, making sure initially there's still face-to-face communication, and understand that the hearing aid is not going to fix the hearing loss. The hearing aid is a tool. So there's other communication strategies that will support what you're hearing. And that's part of our counseling. So here are words from a very happy hearing aid user. And his son teasing him that the hearing aid's like his first child. So he really takes great care of it. And also, this father was limiting use because it didn't run out of batteries. So I'm thanking HLA again for donating batteries for the trip. I have more information about that on another slide. But it's great to see how it's impacting this father's life. So we're still working with battery-powered hearing aids. Okay. For a variety of reasons. One thing in Ethiopia that's a challenge are power outages. So there's some concern about having rechargeable battery in the charger and what effect that power outages would have over the battery long time. So we don't have a solution for that as of yet. Eventually, we would like to offer rechargeable hearing aids. We would like to do that, but for now, disposable batteries, that's been the most effective way to use a hearing aids. We've been so lucky that Oticon donated 50 hearing aids last year, and they've also donated 50 hearing aids this year. Resound donated 20 hearing aids. So the more donations we get, the more people we can fit. So I'm ecstatic about that. Insignia also donated 20 hearing aids last year. So the center is basically run on donations. So we're always grateful for what comes in. Now, what about what do these connect to, right? Ear molds. Don't have any ear molds. We tried making ear molds on site. It took too much time because the material has to get hard. I'd have to drill through it, make a vent if I needed it. That'd be like half an hour for each person. We're there like for 7 solid days. We just didn't have that time. So we use like a plastic tube with a little flange on it of different sizes. And that's what we use to couple the hearing aid. We have sizes like 1 through 6, and that's what we've been doing. Later, I'll talk about a long-term goal related to ear molds, because that's something I know I'd have a better fit if we had a custom ear mold. So we're striving for that. Oh, I also want to mention that local Rochester practices have donated hearing aids as well. So I'm grateful. We're improving the quality of diagnosis and support for hearing aid users by training numerous people. So far, we have 5 trainees. It's a very dedicated staff. They're very eager to learn and serve their community. So what we're making a little bit of dent in the number of providers available to help with audiology services. Part of the training includes developing manuals, how to use the equipment, okay? And with the manuals, English may be their second or third language. So I've added pictures. So here's English, but here's a picture. Here's English, and here's a picture. Thinking that the pictures would help them to understand more what the English is saying, okay? We've also created a video with the equipment that they have in Ethiopia. I have the same one here. So I had audiology graduate students help me make a video on how to do a hearing test with their equipment. So now they have a manual they can refer to. They have a video they can watch again and again. So when I'm learning, that redundancy really helps. Because maybe the first time it's not clear. Or maybe the second time, the third time, the fourth time, they're learning more each time they read or watch the material. Like the Zoom meeting now, I also do Zoom sessions. Ethiopia is 6 hours ahead of us. So on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock here, it's the end of their workday. And so we're doing some training at the end of their workday, which is nice. We get to see each other. And with Zoom, you know how you can share the screen? So I can see exactly what they're looking at when they're trying to set up the hearing aid or do a hearing test. And I can provide immediate feedback. So this has been a good tool for us. And because it's saved and recorded, they can watch the video again. So they can take it in, take notes, then watch it and take more notes. And I also can provide immediate feedback. Okay. In order to fit the hearing aids, we need to have programming software. And last year, somebody donated a license for that hearing aid programming software. And so during this last trip, we trained people on how to use the software and taught them the step for programming specific hearing aids. So I knew when I left, if a problem occurred, they could help do some fine tuning. Now they're doing it with consultation, but at least they're picking up that skill. So they're feeling that they're more independent in the work that they're doing, which has been great. Here's a picture of two clients referred by the ENT. This gentleman over here and that little boy were the ENT patients. They do hearing aids, but they do non-programmable hearing aids. So they're referring them to us for a better hearing aid fitting. And that little boy is playing on the xylophone. What we tend to do, use noisemakers for children who are learning to hear with their hearing aid, having them play with sound has been fun and it's been important. The first quote is about them feeling more independent about the work they do. I am a part of that. They told me they're coming up with their own manuals, which is great because the manuals will be in their language. And secondly, they're finding that the people that are receiving hearing aids are receiving benefit and they're happy about that. And one of our goals is to keep on looking at data, outcomes. How are we doing? I think we can learn a lot from that. Okay. My numbers would be a little bit off, but I think HIA donated at least 6,000 batteries maybe last year, right? Thank you, Sue, for helping to coordinate that. Now, let me tell you, Customs had a few questions when they were coming in. Why so many batteries? But we got them all in, okay? So now because of you, the new hearing aid users don't have to worry about batteries for years to come. So thank you. Thank you very much. That's a huge impact on the program. Here's a picture of two hearing aid tools. The little box on the bottom is the Redux box, and that detects or removes moisture from hearing aids. On the right is a little vacuum for the microphone ports in the hearing aid. Ethiopia has dry and rainy seasons. So we worry about dust getting in those microphones. And when it's the rainy season, moisture inside the hearing aid. And I'm sure many of you know how moisture can affect the quality of sound in the hearing aid. Sounds like it's clogged or blocked. So what they're learning to do is hearing aid maintenance. And they're stressing that to new hearing aid users how important this is. So we ask people to come back after a month, let's see how you're doing, and they're also cleaning their hearing aids. And they're giving them more batteries. So we kind of have a follow-up system in place. Oh, we also give them little brushes for those microphone ports. That's included with each new hearing aid. These are pictures of the audiology, quote, graduates. So these are people who received a certain number of hours of audiology training. It hasn't stopped, it's still going. But I learned having some kind of certificate, some kind of paper was very important to their culture. By having this paper, they could tell other people, I've had this training and I'm becoming a professional in this area. So that really helps validate what they're doing. And that's something I've learned. We're typically seeing older children and adults, but not babies, not young children. And I think a lot of us know the importance of early intervention, how that can impact a child's life, their education, their career. And so our goal is to get testing like auditory brainstem testing to work with the babies and younger children. Now in the capital, they have some of that equipment. They're just getting it in the hospitals, but it's not in the rural area. I meant to mention like 80% of the population lives in the rural part of the country. So that's where we're seeing these big gaps. So eventually we're hoping to get this type of equipment. The word is spreading. People are starting to contact us to come in for a hearing test. There's local orphanages. They had received hearing aids, but they didn't have the follow-up. So now they're coming to us for the follow-up. The government is asking us to go into the schools and do hearing screenings, so which is great. So again, the education is happening as well as the access to services. Those both are improving over time. So we're real happy about that. Now, can you imagine traveling over 700 miles to provide audiology services? So what they're doing is putting all the audiometer equipment on a bus, taking it out to the bush, gathering the people, doing the hearing tests. They find like a building that has power, and then going back again to fit some hearing aids. If you look at the little boy sitting in the chair, do you see his lack of clothes? That's his normal wear for every day. So for nomads, they do live out in the bush, and they also wander too. And they would not have access unless we brought it to the specific community. And the staff are proud that they're reaching more people that otherwise would not receive this service. I'll be going back in August. The goal is to continue doing the work, the training. We'll keep on adding different types of speech testing. Right now, we're mostly doing listening to tones, like additional hearing tests. We want to add listening to speech to that as well. And luckily, some of the word lists have been translated into their language. So we're going to introduce another aspect of testing to them. So we're glad about that. That will also help us with hearing aid verification, being able to have people listen to words in their language and how clear are they with the hearing aid. So this will help us validate what we're doing. I want to talk more about the ear mold lab. I mentioned that we don't have the facilities to make custom ear molds right now, but what about 3D printing? Maybe there's something we could do on site to make the ear molds during the trips. That would be awesome. So that's something we're investigating now. There's a school called the Central Institute for the Deaf in St. Louis, Missouri. They're doing 3D printing. So I'm going to reach out to them to see if there's something we can collaborate on, or what can I do to get involved in that work. Yeah, that would be exciting if we could do something like that. I mentioned about we want to work with younger children for early intervention. Also, it'd be nice if we could do some rechargeable hearing aids over time, if we can figure out that power issue. And number 6, listening and speech language services. That's a gap right now. They're getting a hearing aid and they're leaving. We have to find a way to do a follow-up service where we can offer them some listening practice, some spoken language kind of tips. So I'm hoping more speech language pathologists will join me on the trips. One thing I meant to mention earlier, I mentioned there's like ENTs, a combination of 70 ENTs and audiology techs. There's 10 speech therapists. Can you imagine that? For over 5.5 million people. So people aren't getting this kind of follow-up with speech and language services. That's a huge need. Huge need. Okay. I want to thank you for supporting me with travel grants, and I'm hoping we can continue to do that. And also the telecoil. This is an interesting question. I read something the other day, only 4 countries in Africa have any kind of induction telecoil systems. Ethiopia is not one of them. So how do I introduce telecoil? Imagine a new hearing aid user who's just getting used to wearing a hearing aid, and now I'm adding this other feature that they're going to have to learn. So I'm going to be phasing that in. I'm going to start off with a neck loop for an FM system. Then eventually we would like to loop rooms. So it's going to be a step-by-step process. The need is definitely there, but it's like one step at a time, baby steps. And if you've upgraded to a rechargeable hearing aid, you had an old battery-powered hearing aid, I'll take it. Okay, so maybe somebody else in need can benefit from your older technology. This is to entice you to join us. Okay, part of the work is you go to a nature park. So if you're interested in being close to this type of monkey, or the other picture, those are actually hyenas. Okay, so come and explore some of the wildlife. Last year, HLAA helped sponsor 3 students. So thank you. They're doing well. They're now in a mainstreamed school and they're succeeding. So they were able to benefit from your help with school supplies and also help with meals that were provided at the school. So yes, so thank you. Thank you very much. Now there's more children in need. So if you're interested, the website is up there. If you'd also like to support the students, it's typically $360 a year. And this is to help them thrive in their educational program. So I'd like to offer you that opportunity. Okay. I'm going to conclude with a happy audiologist here and there, and the happy family of a new hearing aid user. So thanks again for your time and having me back. I'm always thrilled to be here.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Let me just see how much time we got. We got about 8 minutes. So I saw Sue, and then we'll come to Eric.
Catherine, can you just tell a little bit more about those 3 students and what their history had been before they were mainstreamed in school and
Okay.
their ages?
Yes. Let me see if they are middle schoolers. So I think it's a 12 with maybe 12, 13, 14. Even though they're teenagers, their language has been delayed. So they're like in the 5th grade. Okay. They've been visions. They were in the vision schools for a little bit, not for long. And there they learned, they picked up language, and that language is helping them in the mainstream. Now, some of them wear hearing aids, not all of them do. Some of them know sign language. So some of them are doing a combination of signing and speaking at the same time, and some of them have interpreters in their classroom. But what they're doing is most deaf people do not go beyond the 4th grade. So these guys are already in the 5th grade, and so there's high expectations of them succeeded in their educational programs. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, one thing that occurred to me, and we talked about it in the Hope session today, is instrument care and cleaning. You mentioned dryers and so forth, but how about the people that are remote from your centers? And the one that you didn't mention is, and I run into it all the time as part of our senior living outreach. I run into people who don't have a clue or don't wanna have to clean their wax filters. Most hearing aids come with wax filters, but people have a dexterity problem, they have a vision problem, or the audiologist never explained to them how to get at the wax filter and change it. Is that part of your support?
It's not at this point, because right now I'm only doing behind the ear hearing aids with the ear mold. So I don't have the receiver in the canal with the wax guards. And one reason I don't have them, I'm concerned about them replacing the wax guard. I'm also concerned about them getting a dome stuck in their ear. Because when you're, how are you going to get that dome out if you get that stuck in your ear? So eventually, I think that people would like that, but we really have to have a plan of how to maintain that type of hearing aid. So thanks for bringing up that point.
Shall we assume that this hearing loss has been going on for many generations? Or is this new and is it only in Ethiopia?
That's a good question. The hearing loss is not only in Ethiopia. Some of it's gone on for a while. Some of it is hereditary and genetic. Some of it is as people are aging, they're gradually losing their hearing. So we have the whole gamut. Okay. Most of the people that I'm seeing have had chronic ear infections. So they were born hearing and then the ear infections went untreated. So it changed from a temporary hearing loss to a permanent hearing loss. And a lot of these people don't have access to ear surgery to correct it.
And I'm gonna offer a suggestion.
Yes.
I'm an avid camper, and sometimes you camp off site. And when you are remote, you don't have power. So how do you get by? And there's battery banks you can get with solar panels, and you can power these banks, and you can run your whole campsite. Quite amazing. So what I was thinking, maybe if you had a power station somewhere, a house or place, maybe you can have an exchange program with smaller battery banks, and basically they can recharge their hearing aids and then exchange battery banks if they don't have, hopefully it's not too far of a distance to travel to do an exchange program to bring power back to their place to recharge their hearing aids for a period of time and then go back and switch out another battery bank or get a solar panel and just recharge the battery banks and then which can recharge your hearing aids. Just an extra step, but it's some ideas.
That's a great idea. And I'm wondering if I could bring some rechargeable hearing aids and experiment and see how all that works.
Yeah, they have big panels. You
Okay.
can bend down and it picks up the sun and it charges the power stations, and they're like big box. And you can run a whole campsite with this. With one of these, people camp for weeks with just something like this. It charges their phones, it charges their whatever.
I'm going to talk more to you later, okay? I'm visual learner. I need pictures of what we're talking about. That'll help me.